Major support for Carolina Business Review provided by Grant Thornton. Operating in more than 100 countries, our tax, audit, and advisory professionals specialize in helping companies unlock their growth potential. And Sunoco, a global manufacturer of consumer and industrial packaging products and provider of packaging services with more than 300 operations in 35 countries.
CEOs don't have all the inside knowledge, but they get a pretty good sense of business, the economy, and broader policy. Welcome again to the most widely watched source of Carolina business policy and public affairs. I am Chris William, and small and big company chief executive officers at the beginning of this year were the most optimistic they have been in about 15 years, of course, with the idea of tax reform, the longest bull market in contemporary history, and in general, a better trade policy with the globe. A majority felt pretty good. But what about now? And what about the rank and file? How do they feel about this economy? In a moment, we will begin this week's dialogue of what is important to know right here in the Carolinas. And later on, joining us again, Wake Forest University President, Dr. Nathan Hatch.
Gratefully acknowledging support by Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, an independent licensee of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association. Visit us at southcarolinablues.com. The Duke Endowment, a private foundation enriching communities in the Carolinas through higher education, healthcare, rural churches, and children's services. BARINGS, a leading global asset management firm dedicated to meeting the evolving investment and capital needs of its clients. Learn more at barings.com. On this edition of Carolina Business Review, Wayne George, Municipal Association of South Carolina, David Farris from the Rocky Mount Area Chamber of Commerce, and special guest, Dr. Nathan Hatch, President of Wake Forest University.
Love that.
Welcome to our program. As a lot of things happen, all the good dialogues happen right before the camera rolls and after. David, Wayne, good to have you both here.
Nice to be here. Nice to be here.
By the way, thank you for making the trip. I know it's not a small trip from Rocky Mount down east, and of course the Midlands and Columbia. David, there was this recent survey of CEOs about how they're feeling about the economy, and CEOs don't have all the answers, I know. But at the beginning of this year, everyone was very upbeat, very optimistic, and now still optimistic. But the title of it said "The Anxious Optimist in the Corner Office." Do you get the sense, for not just some of the business and leadership and policy leadership in Nash and Edgecombe counties, are still optimistic, or is there that sense of creeping concern about things that might be going on?
Probably the simplest answer is all of the above. With the recovery, every day we're setting a new record in the recovery in the United States. And we're at, what, 96 months now, or close to it? And typically, before you have a downturn in the economy, you're in the 48 to 52 month range. And so we're in uncharted territory, and I think that naturally causes you a little bit of anxiety. You know it's going to end at some point. But there's still so much going on in development, technology, within cities, within universities, that I think there's that natural guarded optimism and cautiousness sort of blended in together. But, you know, in Rocky Mount, Pfizer just this year is increasing their employment numbers out there between 800 and 1,000, and they've invested $200 million
in addition, you know, to help get things on stream. And when their equipment comes in, it's a 5-year window of certification. So they have to be looking out at another 60 months. So, you know, there is and there isn't. Thankfully, the business plans are in line for the next couple of years, and management and CEO, I think, are still feeling pretty good about things. Wayne, what about your contemporaries in the different towns and cities, municipalities? What are you hearing about, either from the political leaders or from those that are in chambers and so on and so forth? What do you hear?
Well, I think in South Carolina, when I think of CEO, of course, we're the Municipal Association, and we have 271 cities and towns in South Carolina. And when I think of the CEO, I think of either the mayor or the city manager, city administrator. And our urban cities like Columbia, Charleston, North Charleston, Rock Hill, Spartanburg, Greenville, and even some of our smaller mid-sized cities, I think have had a good year from an economic development standpoint. They've created jobs. We've seen new investments. We've seen new retail. We've seen new restaurants. And overall, when we look at South Carolina, I think our mid-sized to larger cities have had a good year overall.
Do you also get the sense that now that, you know, I hate to keep using this term, that we're past the midterms, that there's some sense, political certainty now? Does that add to the certainty or the uncertainty about planning for 2019 and beyond for these municipalities?
You know, I think certainly the national politics has some influence when it comes to trickling down monies, when it comes to infrastructure and CDBG grants and et cetera. But overall, I don't think it has a major impact. Our cities and towns are fairly strong. They're getting stronger in South Carolina. We do have some concern with our smaller cities and towns of more rural nature, of how we make those cities get stronger. So,
speaking of plans, CSX announced, and then they didn't, and then they did. And I'm talking about
kind of like a marriage, on again, off again.
In a very public view, right? So, David, you know, that's the question. CSX came out, I don't know, was it 24 months ago now? They said, we're going to put a big stake in the ground. We're going to have a wonderful intermodal. It's going to be down east. It's going to be in, was it Nash or Edgecombe?
Johnson County first, and they walked from it. So,
why did Johnson County turn away from that?
You know, there's all sorts of opinions about it, so I won't go there.
Okay, but
we'll stay in Rocky Mountain.
But they are going to.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Chris, we're delighted. They never, when the late CEO of CSX put a pause in it. The property had been acquired. They never stopped permitting, which kept us a little guarded optimism in there.
Right.
A couple of their other sites they completely said no to. And the state legislative and the governor got involved, along with the Carolinas Gateway Partnership and Rocky Mountain Chamber. And we never got the sense that it was not going, something wasn't going to happen. They wanted to rethink the intermodal model that they were going to do. And yeah, it caused some sleepless nights. But the one thing CSX did for us, it put us on the map, and it led to things like Corning and Triangle Tire coming in and the expansion of other plants there. So even if it hadn't worked out, and it is going to work out, it would still have been a positive force, but it, no pun intended, it's on track.
So if we fast forward 5 or 10 years, the dividends paid from the CSX Intermodal, in addition to the companies that made announcements because there was a sanctioning that the Twin Counties or the region of Rocky Mount were already, you know, going to be expanding. What are those dividends? The connectivity to the ports, the areas down east, et cetera?
Absolutely. We're in a very unique geographical situation. We're almost equal between the port in Wilmington and Moorhead and the Norfolk port, with the proposed I-87, which will take US 64's place. And that's almost at a crossroad with I-95. So they like that proximity of coming in with the trucks and then the rails. We're just in an ideal location for it. And that's going to, as soon as CSX announced originally, the inquiries into the Twin County areas, and our Twin Counties are Nash and Edgecombe, and Rocky Mount sits right in between the two of them. The phones lit up, and they haven't stopped. So it put us in a position we haven't been in perhaps decades.
Wade, let's ask you this question about downtown revitalization. As I hear David talking about how Rocky Mount's now expanding, and one of the challenges for small and mid-sized towns, and I would say even Columbia, is this idea of downtown revitalization, reworking, new energy. How do you do that? What's the dialogue going on?
I think the first thing, Chris, is planning, and I think community involvement and trying to create niches and what does it take to bring people into downtown. I know one community that I'm from, our closest technical college was about 45 miles, and people didn't have access to a public, just couldn't get 45 miles. And of course, we recruited that college, technical college, to put a campus on Main Street. And now in this community, it's the focal point of Main Street. And hundreds of people come in on a daily basis and a weekly basis to continue their education. So I think planning in downtown, we've had a lot of cities. We're one of the, we have a Main Street program that we sponsor through the Municipal Association. And this coming year in 19, we're going to expand that program to involve more cities and towns that'll have access to Main Street. And actually, our thought is we have around 18 cities now that participate in Main Street, have done some unique things, so we can invite other cities and towns to meet with them on a quarterly basis and talk about strategies and plans that have been positive.
And let me follow up quickly with one thing. We've got about 30 seconds left. Of those 271 towns, cities and towns in South Carolina that are members of the association, what percentage would you say actually have a vision and or a plan for some type of revitalization or just a solid plan for their core?
We are actually looking at that now to see how many. You have
a gut feeling?
No, it's probably smaller than I would want to say publicly.
Yeah, okay.
South Carolina, has around, we think we'll have around 5 million people at a new census. This is a fact that 123 of our 271 cities and towns have a population of less than 1,000. Okay. So, that's what, maybe 40% of our cities and towns are very small. And, we've got to coach them and mentor them and come up with some ideas that can help their downtowns.
Gentlemen, thank you. Stay with us. I suspect that downtown revitalization will come up again with our guest. Before we meet our guest, coming up on this program might be two of our favorite programs during the year, at least crew favorites. And it is the annual economic review, and then part two is the annual economic forecast. We have 4 resident economists that join us each year, and they're going to do it again, whether they like it or not. Doctors Doug Woodward from USC, John Connaughton from UNC Charlotte, Ms. Sarah House from Wells Fargo, and finally Dr. Frank Hefner from the College of Charleston. Our guest is beginning his 14th year now presiding over one of the Carolinas and indeed one of this nation's premier private universities. His career and education arc has taken him through places like Notre Dame, Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Washington University. And it may take all of that acquired knowledge and experience to continue to lead his school in somewhat uncertain future for higher education. Joining us again is Wake Forest University President, Dr. Nathan Hatch. Dr. Hatch, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be here.
So, Dr. Hatch, I know this is not lost on you, sir, but as Wake Forest is Demon Deacons, one of those schools that draws a lot of loyalty. Certainly when it comes to basketball or football, but you are in that stratosphere of higher education, and it's not inexpensive education. So as the dialogue about kids, about students that are an average wage or below, how do they not feel like schools like Wake Forest are not elitist and out of their reach?
Yeah. We have a current capital campaign of $1 billion. And our chief goal is financial aid. And we do that in a variety of ways, but we hope to continue a tradition of first-generation students. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, we got a major gift, a $10 million anonymous endowment for first-generation students. At the same time, we want middle-class students to be able to come, so we've done a lot to support that. Porter Byram, who lived here in Charlotte, upon his passing, we got a major endowment, and much of that money goes to reduce the debt burden for middle-class students. So it's a major issue for us, how to balance quality and cost is, I think, the biggest challenge that I face.
And those were my words, Dr. Hatch, as I describe universities that have become seemingly elite, but does that vex you when schools that you know so well, like Wake Forest University, have become so successful that it almost works against them?
It can, but we're very committed to being a place of opportunity, so that the net cost of Wake Forest actually has not gone up because of the amount of money we're putting in financial aid to allow it to be an access point for those who cannot afford the full cost.
David, question?
Yes, Dr. Hatch, first, congratulations on your $10 million gift. I'm sure our president at Wesleyan College, Dewey Clark, would love to receive a $10 million gift. The balance of rural North Carolina, the far extremes, the eastern part, the western sector. How are you reaching out, or does the university have a plan to reach out to those high schools to try and help facilitate a transition into universities, special universities like Wake Forest that seem out of reach to so many others?
Yeah.
How do you get the message across that there is an opportunity?
We do have a special tie to eastern North Carolina, because until the 1950s we were in Wake County and had deep ties.
In Wake Forest.
Exactly. So that now our admissions office pays special attention to rural areas, particularly in North Carolina, which is our roots. 20% of our students still come from North Carolina. So we try to be especially attentive to those who may not have come from cosmopolitan areas, and try to continue that tradition.
I know there's a lot of loyalty in Rocky Mount with the Chamblises and Browns and several families to Wake Forest. It's a special place to a lot of people in Rocky Mount.
We're grateful for that.
Wayne, question?
Yes, sir. We always like to take good ideas from North Carolina and take them back to South Carolina. But one thing we're looking at our association in South Carolina is us baby boomers, and I won't put us in any particular category here, but most of us baby boomers will be moving out of the workforce. And we think we got some excellent jobs in local government in South Carolina that'll be coming available, whether it's planning directors or finance directors or city administrators. And we've had, I think our goal in South Carolina for 19 will be careers in cities. How do we get more young people interested that are in college, community college or colleges, private colleges like yours, Doctor? How do we get these younger people interested, in your opinion, in local government jobs?
Yeah. Well, it is interesting. I mean, political science is one of our largest majors, and students today are interested in public service. I think the challenge is they tend to think of Washington, or they tend to think of Raleigh. I think the challenge is to provide pathways so that they can see local government as an active place to be. In fact, I heard it said the other day, and it says being a mayor today is probably more important than any other office because of actually what you can accomplish on the local level. So I agree with you. It should be a place to which young people should aspire.
I want to take something that Wayne just said, Dr. Hatch. You've talked about community colleges, and Peter Hans was on this program, as you well know, the ascending and the new president of the North Carolina Community College System, and talked a lot about partnership with higher ed, specifically places like Wake, Carolina, Duke, et cetera, et cetera. How do you look at the continuum of schools once you get past 12? What makes sense? What does the future of higher ed look like with the idea of a very robust community college or technical college system and a robust higher ed?
Yeah. I mean, I think we have to do a better job of coordination. In Winston-Salem, we have started regular meetings of the presidents and chancellors to try to do that, so that, in a sense, everyone in that community who wants higher education can find the best place for that to be. Certainly in our community, the the technical college, the community college, has been superb in tying in with local industries, helping to attract them to the area. That's one of the strengths of North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. David?
Along those same lines, we're very fortunate in Rocky Mount with two great community colleges, Edgecombe Community College and Nash. They come to us often if industry's coming in and they say the answer is yes, what do you need us to do? Edgecombe is in the middle now of a multi-million-dollar facility across from the Triangle Tire site for training. Dialing it back, I was in Danville, Virginia at a conference earlier, and one of the presenters was from Louisiana, and he shared with us a model on a high school that they have just put in Springdale. And it's not a traditional high school. It's not something that we're doing within our community colleges, early college. But it's more technical. It has advanced manufacturing in mind, robotics and things like that. The high school model that most of us grew up in, that still seems to be somewhat in existence today, is that model preparing the kids today for the universities and the professions that wait versus during our generation?
Yeah. I think we need to do a better job, as you suggest, in training young people, giving them pathways in terms of these technical skills, which can be very high-paying jobs. But I think too many young people just think of going to college, taking a general major, rather than specializing in those. In our community, it's big medical care, and so Forsyth Community College does have, in our Innovation Quarter, our downtown facilities, they have programs designed to help young people get into biomedical specialties. But I think we need to do a better job with that.
And let me, I'm sorry, Wayne, but let me follow us something on just what David said. So Wake, and I'm not leading into this for you, but I want to make a point of this. Wake downtown. So what the university has done, and this is for the benefit of our viewers, if you take an engineering and you've combined this with liberal arts. The other cool thing about this, it's about 1 year old. You've got a 40% female enrollment. What are you hoping to do with this? This seems like non-traditional higher ed initiative. Where are you going with this?
Yeah, it's part of a larger effort, the Wake Forest Innovation Quarter, where led by our medical school, we've taken old tobacco factories given by the Reynolds American Corporation, and using the magic of historic tax credits, 1 million square feet have been turned into modern laboratories, office, and classrooms. Our medical school moved down there, and we decided for the first time to develop engineering in conjunction with our medical school. And so we have a new engineering department led by a woman with a specialty in biomedical engineering. We're in our second class, and it is true, 40% of those students are women, and it's wonderful to see. And for the first time really takes the strengths of our medical school faculty and uses them on behalf of undergraduates.
What are the early returns? What does the efficacy of that program look like so far?
I mean, we know that people are attracted to Wake who wouldn't otherwise have come. And I think in an entrepreneurial economy where biomedical science is key, these graduates, which both have a liberal arts background and this new engineering program, will be superbly qualified for technical positions.
Wayne, sorry, I jumped in. We've got about a minute left. Do you have a final question?
No, this has been good. I've learned something. I appreciate the insight too.
Do you get, so in a final minute here, economic development, so maybe it's how you just described it, Dr. Hatch, but literally in 1 minute, how do you lean into economic development in Winston-Salem or the Triangle?
Another thing that both at Wake Forest and in Winston-Salem, we're trying to become much more of an entrepreneurial economy. We have an entrepreneurial center. Actually, it's the second largest major in our college. And in Winston-Salem, 2 philanthropists have actually set up something called Winston Starts. It's an incubator. They fund local companies. A number of those now are coming out of Wake Forest, but they actually provide space for free And this had just begun a year ago. They now have 18 companies. The goal is to have 50. And this is a wonderful effort, and it does, young people are interested in this, and to be able to have that at the university and in the city is a wonderful thing.
Are you hoping you're going to push tech transfer that way?
We hope we will. That is a variety of kinds of companies, but given the medical school research, it will involve that as well.
Dr. Hitch, thank you. And I said Winston in the triangle. I meant Winston in the triad, and I think you knew that. But thank you. Good to have you on our program.
Great to be here.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. Wayne, welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
And David, nice to have you from down
It's
east.
nice
That's
to be
not a
here.
small trip. I appreciate your commitment to join us.
Well, I appreciate being invited.
Thank you. And thank you for watching our program. We hope your weekend is good, and certainly your business too. Good night.
Major funding for Carolina Business Review provided by the Duke Endowment, Barings, Grant Thornton, Sunoco, Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, and by viewers like you. Thank you. Promotional consideration provided by Business North Carolina Magazine. For more information, visit carolinabusinessreview.com.